Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today to discuss the customer service function within the WPS Secure Portal. My name is Karen Curtis, and I am a Provider Outreach and Education Specialist here at WPS. Joining me today is Ashley Dakota. Ashley is going to help me out today by monitoring the chat for questions that you may have and also providing some additional information during the webinar. Now, I have just a couple of things to cover before we get started. The Training Center webpage is where you can find information related to the Provider Outreach and Education team. You can find a link on this slide, and it will also be added to the chat. Now, once you are there, you can choose the live events card, which is going to bring you to a list of all the webinars that we're holding for the next 6 to 8 weeks. You can register for upcoming events and download copies of the presentations that we use during our webinars. Now, if you haven't gotten your copy of today's slide deck, there is still time. Just click on the link in the chat and that will get you there quickly. The Training Center is also home to our Encore Presentations webpage. Videos are available for up to 90 days and can be watched directly on our website. After that time, they will be removed from the website, but they will remain on our YouTube channel until the information changes. Later in the presentation, there will be a question and answer session if time permits. If you have questions related to today's topic, please send those using the chat feature. I did receive a couple pre-submitted questions, which I will answer at that time. Now, if there's any questions I don't get to, or maybe there's some that are going to require some additional research, then an email providing those answers will be sent to everyone in attendance. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you will be asked to provide feedback on how I did today. Now, this is your opportunity to let me know what I did right, as well as where I need to improve. This is also an opportunity to provide topics that you would like to see covered in future education. While this is a CMS survey, WPS does look at our results, and we do our best to make the changes that you ask for. Now, here is a copy of our disclaimer. I do need to let you know that CMS does prohibit the recording of this webinar. We are recording this event so it can be posted as an Encore presentation. So if there's any material that you want to review or share with a coworker, it will be available within the next couple of weeks, along with a link to download the presentation. Now, I'm hoping by the end of today's presentation, you will have a better understanding of the customer service inquiry function in the portal. I'm going to talk a little bit about registration. We'll talk about submitting an inquiry and the message search option, which is available out there. So I want to take a minute to talk about portal registration because this is needed in order for you to access the customer service inquiry function. There are a couple ways to register for portal access. On our home page, you will find a registration link under the user ID box. Here you can see that I have it outlined in red. This is going to allow you to self-register. There's also the possibility that you will receive a message about registering as an NPI administrator. This occurs if the NPI entered has fewer than 5 administrators. So if you don't get this message, there's no reason to be concerned. There's nothing wrong. It just means that your NPI already has 5 individuals in that role. When you self-register, a request will be sent to the NPI administrator for your facility or office, who will need to approve or deny access. So this means that you're not going to be able to log in until your request has been approved. You can also have your NPI administrator create an account for you, and this is going to eliminate the approval process. After accepting the terms, you will be moved to the provider access page. Here is where you're going to enter your NPI, PTAN, and your tax identification number. Now, if you're part of a group If you're part of a provider group or clinic, then you must enter the group MPI and PTAN. You will not be able to register using an individual's provider's information. The portal will verify the information entered, and this is when you might be asked if you'd like to be register as an MPI administrator. If this isn't something that you want to take on, you can just select no and continue to the next screen. The next screen is going to be a page about you, and this is where you're going to provide WPS with your name, contact information, and work information. So things like your name, your email address, your work address, things like that. The box on the right is for registering as an MPI administrator. To accept the role of MPI administrator, there is certain financial information that must be provided. So this means that you must have access to information that would appear on our remittance advice that had been issued within the last 30 days. There are three options for this. The patient lookup is going to require the Medicare number and date of service for a beneficiary who would appear on a recent remittance advice. If you choose Medicare check number, then you're going to have to enter a check EFT number. And the last option is Medicare claim number. This is going to ask you for a claim number that has appeared on a remittance advice within the last 30 days. Now, if you decide that you don't want to be an MPI administrator, this is a role that can be taken on later. Individuals who have eligibility or standard access can become an MPI administrator if more are needed, or maybe the current administrator takes a different position and they just can't continue to perform the duties. So there may be reasons where somebody would need to step up and take on that role. I will say customer service has gotten some portal inquiries from new providers, and they're asking for assistance in registering as an MPI administrator, but they haven't submitted any claims. So they've never gotten a remittance advice and they don't have that financial information that's required. So I just wanted to remind everybody that claims have to have been submitted to WPS. And you must receive a remittance advice before someone can register for that role. Now, I included this slide because I wasn't sure if everybody was aware how the home page appeared for other access levels. So at the top, we have eligibility access. These users have the ability to check a beneficiary's eligibility, look up MBIs, and they also have access to submit inquiries to customer service. Now at the bottom is the home page for a standard user. This you can see has quite a few functions available. Their customer service option can be found on the practice card. I have that outlined in red. Now, MPI Administrator's homepage is very similar to the standard user. The only difference is that an MPI administrator has an extra function in between that My Profile and Customer Service buttons, and it's called Users. And this allows administrators to manage other users under their MPI. So since we talked about registering, let's move on and we'll talk about submitting your questions to our customer service staff. There are a couple types of questions that can be submitted through the portal. Technical questions are those that are related to functionality of the portal. Non-technical questions could include clarification on policies or claims processing. I do have a couple examples listed here. Now, normally changes to service locations or access is something that should be handled by an MPI administrator, but there are some situations where customer service may need to help with that. Now, if your question is claim or patient specific, then your inquiry should include the patient's name, MBI, and date of birth, as well as the date of service that your question pertains to. I was asked if providers can send generic questions such as, does modifier 33 have to be added to all preventive services? And the answer is yes, those type of questions can be asked using this function. Now, there are some guidelines for handling these inquiries. First, customer service staff must follow the same rules regarding the release of information as they do for a phone call. So what does this mean? This means that you will be required to provide your MPI, PTAN, and the last 5 digits of your tax ID number. Your question should not be asking for claim status or eligibility information that can be found within the portal or the interactive voice response or IVR system. We have held webinars in the past that have covered how to find eligibility in both the IVR and the portal. So if that's something that you're not familiar with, we do have those resources on our YouTube channel. Contractors are allowed 45 business days to respond to written inquiries. So this includes inquiries that are submitted through the portal. It's also important to fill out all of the fields accurately and provide as much detail as possible. Now, to open a customer service inquiry form, you're going to want to select the plus sign that is next to the customer service button. Now this is going to open up the inquiry form. So at the top, you're going to see that there's a notification alerting you that it can take up to 45 days to receive a response. So if your inquiry is something where you need immediate assistance, you're going to want to call instead of doing it this way. Your name and email will populate. You will choose the correct MPI from the drop-down box. This will auto-populate the PTAN field. You'll then need to enter the last 5 digits of your tax identification number and your phone number. The type of question field is another drop-down box, and this is where you're going to select if your question is technical or if it's non-technical. You're then going to enter a subject for your inquiry and details in the description box. Once you've completed all the fields, you're going to choose Review, which you can see down here in the lower right corner. But that's going to bring you to the review screen. So here at the top is a message to review the information for accuracy. If you do need to make corrections, you can just choose the edit button. There's one on the lower right and on the upper right. And after reviewing the information, if everything's correct, then you could submit the question by clicking on the Submit button in the lower left corner. You will see up in the upper right corner, you also do have the option to cancel. Now, if everything's filled out properly, then after choosing the Submit button, the submitted screen will appear. And here you're going to see this green check and a notification that your message was successfully sent. At this time, you're also going to receive a tracking number. So you can see this kind of right here. They have it blurred out in this example. And this is something that can be used later when we look at the message search function. The bottom half of the screen is going to include the submitter's information, including the state and the Medicare plan code. So whether it's a Part A or a Part B provider. The client status is sent and the customer service status is received. You're also going to have a date that the inquiry was submitted. And then up in the right-hand corner, you'll see that you have the option to print your confirmation. You can start another inquiry or you can just select Done. So now let's take a look at the search function that's going to let you look at those inquiries that you've already sent. The message search function allows you to view messages that you have submitted. I do have to admit, I asked our portal team, what about MPI administrators? Can they view every message that's submitted for a particular MPI? And I was told no, that users can only see inquiries that they actually have created. Results can be narrowed down by MPI, tracking number, from and to date, status, PTAN, and subcategory. To access the message search function, you will select that larger button that reads customer service. Here is the screen that's going to appear. Inquiries will be listed showing their tracking number, status, subject, status date, and submitted date. The last column is titled Actions, and it has an icon of an eye. Now at the top of the screen, you're going to see those fields that we talked about on the last slide that are going to allow you to narrow those results. The service location is a drop-down box that allows you to select the correct NPI. So, in case you have registered for access under more than one MPI, you can kind of separate those out. Moving to the right is the tracking number. So that's the number provided when we receive that confirmation that our inquiry was successfully sent. Next, we have the submission form and the to date, so you can narrow it down to a specific time frame if you would like to do that. The status is also a drop-down box, so you can choose from messages that were sent or ones that have been received. Next, we have the PTAN, and finally is subcategory. So the subcategory is a drop-down box that allows you to separate your technical inquiries from your non-technical inquiries. Now, if you use any of the fields, you do have to select search. So the system does not automatically start to narrow the results based on the information that you're adding. So that was one thing I had to kind of get used to. I'm really used to results just narrowing down as I type things in, and that didn't happen. So you do have to press that search function. Once you find the message that you are looking for, then you can click on that icon that's located in the actions column. That's going to bring you to the message detail. Now, my screenshots are from the test environment, so there really isn't much to the message, but I do like to at least show you exactly what it's going to look like. So even though it may be a little minimal in details, this is what it's going to show. So the top portion is going to contain your business and your contact information. There's also information regarding the message status. And the bottom portion is going to contain the message. Messages that are sent through the portal do not have the ability to go back and forth like an email. That was one of the other things that I had asked about because I wanted to know if it was kind of a back and forth, and I was told no, it's kind of just like an email outbox. But users will submit their inquiry and customer service will provide a response. I have been told that if users have additional questions, sometimes they will copy and paste the original inquiry and the response. They'll put that into a new inquiry and then they'll add their additional question. The only thing that I do want to say, if you do that, be careful since there is a limited number of characters that can be entered in that description box. So you just want to make sure that you can get everything in there that you want to send. Now, while this webinar is about how to use the customer service inquiry function, I do want to discuss a little bit about how the WPS customer service side. Our customer service department has staff whose job it is to handle written inquiries. They don't answer the phones. Their job is just written inquiries. And not all inquiries are received through the portal. Some inquiries come into custom or to WPS by mail or fax. Others come in from congressional offices and CMS. So there are times where beneficiaries will sometimes they'll contact their state representative, or they'll go straight to CMS. And they'll talk about issues they're having with their Medicare coverage, or they may even talk about a specific claim. And so these questions are then sent to the individual Medicare contractors to investigate what's going on with this person's benefits or with their claims, and then we'll have to respond to those. There's also times where they have to respond to questions that are received from 1-800-Medicare. There are inquiries that can also come from other departments, so that's going to be part of their workload too. I honestly didn't realize that they were coming in from that many different areas. I was a customer service rep a very long time ago, and we just got stuff through the mail. So things have changed quite a bit, and we also didn't get inquiries from other departments. So there is a lot more to deal with than there was when I did the job. Now, most of the questions are handled directly by customer service staff, but there are times that they may have to reach out to other departments for input. So, we all know there's no way that we can be an expert on everything. So maybe a provider sends in a question and it's related to PAYCOs. So the customer service staff may have to reach out to the provider enrollment department so that they can get this answer for PAYCOs and then reply back to the provider. There may also be times that they have to reach out to policy because maybe a question is going to pertain to a certain LCD. So they may have to reach out to other people before they can get the answer back to you. Many of the technical questions that customer service receives are requesting assistance on resetting passwords and portal recertification. Now, these requests are normally something that should be handled by an MPI administrator, but there are times that that individual may not be available. So some facilities only have one MPI administrator. So if that person is out of the office or if they're on extended leave, then customer service may have to handle some of those responsibilities. Now, I was told that requesters should specify the reason of why they are not contacting their administrator and why they need customer service to handle those requests. I also recently spoke with one of our customer service supervisors, and she said that she always advises providers to have multiple administrators for this exact reason. Because contractors have 45 business days to respond to those inquiries, it may cause users to lose portal access because maybe their passwords weren't reset or their accounts weren't recertified in time. So just something to think about. Now, before I ask Ashley if we've gotten any questions in the chat, I would like to address some of the pre-submitted questions that I received. I was asked about what issues customer service deals with, and I talked about a couple just a second ago, but a large volume of their workload is transfer from appeals. So this occurs when a provider sends a second appeal on a claim. A Medicare can only perform each level of appeal on the same service once. So when providers send in multiple requests for the same claim, then customer service has to handle the response back to the provider. We do have a resource on our website, and I'm going to have Ashley add that into the chat. This is how to avoid those duplicate submissions, like requests for reconsiderations, just in case it is something that you've experienced, and it gives you tips on how to avoid those duplicate requests. I did receive a couple questions asking why there's so many issues with the portal. One asked specifically about technical issues, but I didn't have any specifics. So I do want to take you out to our website. Ashley, can you verify that you can see our home page?
Yes, I can see the homepage.
Okay, thank you. So there are a couple areas where you can find out about any issues we're having. This first one is a little icon up here. To me, this looks like what you have on your messaging apps. That is one way to access the system problems. Um, right now am in J5 Mac Part A, but you'll just want to make sure that you're in whatever jurisdiction applies to your provider. There also, if you scroll down, is a system status. So it says right now that there are 2 informational messages and 1 moderate alert. I did notice this 1 moderate alert was added today. So if we click on that link, then we get brought to the system status and alert page. This particular problem has been here for a while. These are the 2 informational messages. This one is about upcoming maintenance. The new one that I found this morning was DDE form submission unavailable. So this is where the portal team will put any issues that they could be having, where you can kind of keep up to date on those. I will also say that I know that the portal team, I meet with them monthly, and they are really busy with testing updates and enhancements and things like that. So they have kind of a short turnaround time for those testing windows. So hopefully, if it's something that you are having an issue with, since they do testing so often, hopefully it'll get resolved quickly. This is also where you can find other like systems processing. So you can see MCS or FIS, but these ones up here would relate to the portal. Another question was what to do if the portal information is incorrect and customer service won't answer eligibility questions. So eligibility information that's found in the portal is loaded from HETS. That is the HIPAA Eligibility Transaction System, which is run by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS. HETS does pull their information from the Social Security Administration and the Railroad Retirement Board database. So if anything's incorrect, the patient would need to contact whichever office they get their Medicare benefits through. So I think most beneficiaries just would go through normal Social Security, but if they're a railroad retiree, they'd have to go through that Railroad Retirement Board. None of the contractors or providers have access to update any of that information. So it all kind of has to go back to CMS or to Social Security to get those benefits updated. That is all that I had for pre-submitted questions. So I will go back to Ashley to see if anything has been put in the chat.
Hi, Karen. We've not had any questions in the chat.
Okay. Well, I will go ahead and move on then. Now, after the close of today's webinar, you should receive a thank you for attending email. There are 2 sections I would like to draw your attention to. The first is titled Your Opinion Matters, and this is going to give you another opportunity to provide feedback if you have not already done so. The second section is titled Certificate of Achievement, and this gives you proof of attendance and contact hours that can be submitted to your accrediting organization for continuing education units. If you do not get this email, please check your spam or junk folder. You'd also need to add messenger@webex.com to your safe sender list to avoid any issues in the future. If you joined by phone, WebEx is not able to generate this email. So if that's the case, we do ask that you send an email to the education mailbox with your name and the phone number that you used to join, and that way we can email a certificate to you. Now, if you do think of any questions after the webinar, you do have 7 days to send those in. You can email those to the education mailbox shown here on the screen. Be sure to put today's topic in the subject line so that staff know that your question is related to this webinar, and they'll send it directly to me. Remember, if you have like a claim specific question or something specific to like the portal not showing something correctly, those should go to customer service. And when you disconnect from the webinar, you will be redirected to a CMS survey. I'm also having Ashley add that link in the chat. And I really hope that you will take a moment to provide feedback on how I did today. The redirect looks a little bit like what you see here at the bottom of the screen. And we just show you this because we don't have any control over how it looks. So we want you to know it isn't spam or anything malicious. We have made a couple recent changes based on survey comments. We added chapters to our YouTube channels. Those are found in the description of the video, and it lets you kind of jump back and forth to wherever you want to go. It also kind of gives you an overview of key points that'll occur during the webinar. We added training indicators to our descriptions when you register so that you can get a little bit more of an idea if the information is going to pertain to you. Some of them are like new to Medicare, or we may specify it if it's FIS or MCS that we're going to talk about. The last one on here is the Medicare Education Expo. We held one back in July. It was our very first one, and it was a whole day of webinars that were focused on LCDs and NCDs. The reason we did that is because we received so much feedback where providers would put that for future education topics, they wanted to know more about LCDs and NCDs. So we did hold a whole day of education on that, and that is available out on our YouTube. Now we are going to hold another one in October. This kind of going to be a Halloween theme, and it's going to be on October 16th, and it is going to be dedicated to the life of the claim. So since I do have this up, if we go out to the training center for the live events, and if I scroll down to October 16th, and we click on the time there, this will take you to all of the webinars that we're going to be holding that day. It kind of gives you a description of what those are, and it gives you a link to register. So if that is something that you're interested in, be sure to go out there and register for any sessions that you'd like to attend. That does bring us to the end of today's presentation. On behalf of myself, Ashley, and the Provider Outreach and Education team, I would like to thank you for being here today, and I hope that you will join us for future events. You may now disconnect.